Oh, thank you so much, Buta. Well, earlier I mentioned that life is worth living, but what happens if you're kidnapped? If you just tuned in, we are chatting to Yolande Korkie, who together with her husband Pierre, they were captured by al-Qaeda militants in Yemen in 2013. Well, Yolande was later freed, and however, during a USA attempt to rescue them, which failed, Pierre, her husband, was killed. Yolande, once again, welcome to the show, and thanks so much for joining us to talk about 558 Days, the new book that's coming out. Earlier, we touched on the actual story. What happened to Pierre? The fact that they chose you instead of him to rescue you first, and you survived, and he didn't. I want to know about the actual book. The release of the book is here now. Did the writing process help you? Was it therapeutic?
I never set out to write it for therapeutic reasons. It was more of an urge that I knew I had to write the story. And initially, before Pierre was released, or before he died, I knew that the story was also Pierre's story, so I held back. It wasn't only my story. And then after Pierre died, I realized, but this is not my story, this is not Pierre's story, this is God's story. And so the writing was a fall and stand, but it was really something that I had no control over. It was like having a baby, you just have no control over it. It just happened. It was like a tide coming in and pulling back. And the words were just coming and the memories were just coming.
You talk about memories, you talk about the fact that it's not just your book, but it's also your husband Pierre's book. What was the most difficult chapter to write and why?
Definitely the last ones, because we were really privileged to have his journals brought out after the failed rescue attempt, and we could trace his journey. So to worthily gather together all the threads and bring that out in a manner that would be palatable and be something that people could really feed from was a challenge, and it was painful. It was very painful.
You're talking about painfulness, and I mean, in the break earlier, we spoke about it. Usually when there's a loss or someone has done something to you, as humans, we feel like we want to avenge, revenge, go there, you know. We want to shock them, hurt them, because we're hurting, you know. It's a natural response as a human. Here you are, and the US news agency interviews you, and you say, well, you know what, I'm choosing to let go. How does one just let go?
There's a difference between letting go and letting go into God's hand. So letting go into God's hand is what we chose. It's a choice we made because we've been forgiven first. And we don't want to be hostages or captives of what happened in the past. We want to be free, we want to go forward in that peace.
There's people watching this morning who are victims. On this show, we have discussed terrorism, we have discussed abductions, we've discussed kidnappings. What do you want to say to parents, people, brothers and sisters who are watching this morning who has lost someone? I'm thinking also specifically of the news story this week with the girl in the Kokie forest. It's no longer a story on television. It's a story that's happening to all of us, because this is real, this is life. What do you want to say to people watching this morning?
There's so much, although this story is very unique and kidnappings is very unique, there's something very universal about what you go through. And it's really important actually for the supporters of those families that they understand that that person is living second by second. Those families are really second by second living, breaking, thinking this is the moment the loved one will come home, and then they just break apart when it doesn't happen. So that unconditional love, that unconditional support, unconditional understanding, and living second by second with them as they go up and down that roller coaster, as well as the person on the other side is also living second by second.
Yolande, I have so many questions to ask around this, but I guess the rest we would have to read in the book. 558 Days. Well, she was held hostage. She's here today to tell the story, and we will be reading your book. Again, we are sorry for your loss, but we're excited for what you're able to do and the story that you're able to tell, because you are sharing your suffering and making sure that we all excel. Thank you so much for opening up about this. Yolande Korkie in our studio this morning. This is your Feel Good Breakfast Show. What is coming up next?